We are so glad that you could be here this evening for Lemon Live at 5. It is a very special show. We have lots of breaking news, and we have a really great guest that I will introduce you to in a moment. You may have seen him over on the Bulwark. You may have seen him over on other networks. So he'll be joining us in just a moment. Wrote an extremely smart and concise speech on Donald Trump's obsession with taking over other places and countries and territories and things. Okay, so good evening. Welcome to the program. We come on the air. We stream to you, as I should say, with some breaking news. It's tragic news. The wildfires out of California, raging in Southern California, expected to be the costliest and most destructive in California's history, in the Golden State's history. Local officials have stated that the flames have already reduced more than 1,000 buildings to ash, and it's still going. At least 2 people are dead. Tens of thousands have been forced to flee their homes, unsure if they'll ever return to their homes again. And I hate to say this, sadly, I think all of that, the devastation and possibly the loss of lives, I think that will increase. Meanwhile, should it be any surprise to anyone that the former president and the president-elect is really dumping the metaphorical fuel on the fire? Instead of coordinating with the White House and folks on the ground, instead of saying our thoughts go out, we get every resource, he's taking to Twitter and through his, I believe, social media site throughout the day to post misinformation, to attack Governor Gavin Newsom of California, to attack the President of the United States on this issue. So clearly he has his priorities in order. That is sarcasm. He is acting like a child. Let's just be honest about it. So let's discuss the news of the day. We have so much. I'm thrilled to introduce you to a very brilliant journalist. His name is Andrew Egger. Andrew is the White House correspondent for the Bulwark. Andrew, we love it when our friends from the Bulwark come on the program. We love having Michael Steele. We love Sarah Longwell. We love Tim Miller and all of the folks over there, including you as well. And it's JVL is over there, right? So thank you for joining us. How are you doing?
Yeah, thank you for having me on. I'm doing really well.
So I want to discuss a host of topics with you, including your latest piece in the Bulwark about Trump's threats to seize Greenland, about Panama, the Panama Canal, etc. But I'm going to start with the situation in California, talk about some news of the day with you, including something that, the former president may have been given the answers, according to a new book from a writer at Politico for a town hall over on Fox News. So I know you have been tweeting about this throughout the day, but and a lot of things. So let's take a look. This is a live feed of the fires in California. And this is the costliest and I believe the biggest fire in California's history. There are multiple blazes everywhere. What is going on here? And you being the White House correspondent, is this the way a president should be responding to a situation like this?
Yeah, well, maybe we can start by talking just a little bit about how the still current president has responded. He's actually out in California right now because of the birth of I believe the first of his great grandchildren that's just taken place out there. So he was already planning on going out there, but he's been in close communication with Gavin Newsom. President Biden has essentially pledged that whatever they need from FEMA they'll get, and has. We're really seeing basically the kind of outer limits of how you can fight a fire like this at a time of obviously increasing climate change, and California has suffered a ton of drought for quite some time, and you have a perfect storm with these Santa Ana winds that are now coming through and just sort of whipping the fire from place to place, such that it's an uphill battle for them to fight it, even if all their resources were working correctly. And as we've seen throughout the day, the infrastructure has sometimes been struggling to keep up. Some of the hydrants throughout the Los Angeles area that firefighters have been using to try to battle the blaze, they've been so taxed their infrastructure for this that they're pumping air. So it's really kind of a truly horrible situation in a lot of ways. And then as you allude to, you have the president-elect who is kind of functioning in one of his favorite roles, and perhaps one of the least helpful roles in this, especially at a time like this, where he's sort of the armchair quarterback in chief. He's posting about how, as has been his wont all through the Biden years, this sort of thing wouldn't be going so badly if he were in charge. A lot of odd sort of wait for January 20th. I'll get in there and fix everything. Hopefully these fires will not still be burning on January 20th. And yeah, I mean, essentially, as usual, having sort of a difficult time putting himself in a position of kind of empathy toward the people who are actually suffering. He had an odd post sort of suggesting that the biggest victim of these fires was him, because he's being handed such a sort of poorly run country by Joe Biden. Thanks, Joe, he said.
So yeah, Andrew, couldn't it be said that that Joe Biden inherited this from Donald Trump because he did not take care of it while he was in office 4 years ago? When he left office, there was still this, and he promised. As a matter of fact, we can show him. Let's show him Andy, our producer, on the ground with Gavin Newsom when there were wildfires. I believe this was 2017 or 2018. Here it is.
Not a study going on over the last little while, and I will say I think you're going to have. Hopefully, this is going to be the last of these, because this was a really, really bad one. And I know Gavin's committed. We're all committed. I'm committed to make sure that we get all of this cleaned out and protected. We've got to take care of the floors, the floors of the forests, very important. You look at other countries where they do it differently, and it's a whole different story. I was with the president of Finland, and he said, we have a much different, we're a forest nation. He called it a forest nation. And they spend a lot of time on raking and cleaning and doing things, and they don't have any problem. And when it is, it's a very small problem. So I know everybody's looking at that, to that end, and it's going to work out.
I don't know if you remember this, but this became an internet meme with the people of Finland actually raking forests and putting pictures of themselves up raking the forest and just saying how ridiculous that was. Now, listen, there does need to be some preemptive measures there are preemptive measures that can help to prevent this, but it's not 100% preventable considering the climate and the topography of California. But I don't know if you're watching the body language there of Gavin Newsom as well, but there are things, this was in the beginning of his last presidency, that he could have put into place as well to help these folks out in California. But he's not mentioning that. He's saying, hey, this is Biden's fault that I'm going to inherit this.
Yeah, this is sort of one of those things, and you see this a lot from Trump, where he will talk about a real structural problem, and he'll garble it or interpret it through his own kind of odd language and give you like a phrase that is very memorable and weird, like raking the forest floors, but something that's like a real thing. And then he will also filter that through this really aggressive partisan political lens. So basically what he's talking about here, and this is a real thing, by the way, that fire prevention experts, forestry experts have been talking about in recent years, is that there's some concern that basically the way that we have managed forest fires for about the last century, which is the Smokey the Bear, only you can prevent them, just stopping fires from ever breaking out, has essentially led in our forests to a situation where they just grow up much more thickly than if you were routinely having small fires kind of clear out the underbrush, clear out small trees and things like that. And what that does is kind of sets you up after, like I say, after about a century of trying to manage fires this way, sets you up for these real tinderbox situations where when a blaze does start, they very quickly go out of control, especially when you couple that with other environmental factors like climate change and like these Santa Ana winds I was talking about earlier. So it's this situation where Trump, when he's talking about that stuff, he's like obliquely hitting on this real thing. But it's not as though he's in favor of that and Gavin Newsom opposes that. It's this developing kind of sense that everybody shares in the best way to manage these forest fires. But of course, you can't just flip a switch and say, oh, we managed them one way before, now we're managing them in different ways. There are organizations that have been working in places like California to do kind of like controlled clean out of underbrush and small shrub trees and things like that in order to sort of gradually get us back to a more manageable environment in situations like this. And Gavin Newsom is not opposed to those efforts by any stretch. But when you couple that then with Trump's kind of need to turn everything into a white hats and black hats, me advocating for the good things, my enemies advocating for the bad things situation. That's where it really goes off the rails, because he's essentially saying that because California has not solved this century-old problem in the 5 or so years since forestry experts have really been sounding this alarm, that essentially that is the fault of Gavin Newsom villain in this situation.
And this situation,
we blameless, of course. I mean, you at a certain point you do lay this at the feet of the leaders who are currently in power, right? But it's just it's this structural problem that I think everybody basically agrees on the way that you need to move toward it in order to solve it, rather than it being Newsom asleep at the wheel necessarily.
Well, you could say this is why we need to have these extra measures in place. But you said white hat, black hats. I would say red hats versus no hats in this particular situation. And look, as you're the White House correspondent for the Bulwark, and it's going to be your job. It is your job to cover this president, the current president, and also the president-elect. So good luck to you, Andrew Egger, with that. So let me just say this. This is a thing that I said I'm not going to bother, bombard, or insult my subscribers and streamers with, and that is the everyday onslaught of tweets and posts from Donald Trump that just serve to be distracting when there is, I believe, no reason to even bother people with them. Like today, he's standing there in the forest with Gavin Newsom, and then today he is blaming Gavin Newsom via tweet by calling Gavin Newsom out of his name. You can see it up on the screen. I don't even read the whole thing, but just saying that he's basically worthless, that he's not providing any rainwater, that he is, it's a true disaster there, blaming instead of trying to be encouraging. And then he is also tweeting about blaming Joe Biden and Gavin Newsom all together as well. No water in the fire hydrants, no money in FEMA, yada, yada, yada. As of this moment, Gavin Newsom, as he calls him, which is just so childish. And trust me, viewers, I'm not going to do this to you all the time but I think this is very important. This fire is so big. When you have this man going into office, and this is what's going to happen every single day to try to change the news cycle, to make himself look bigger, and to sort of prop up his agenda or lack thereof, his concept of an agenda or of a plan. I can't wait till January 20th. I don't know about you. Maybe, Andrew, you can't wait until January 20th that you get to cover all these tweets every single day.
Well, I mean, we're already
I don't find this productive by him responding this way.
Yeah. I mean, there's no question. And just to go back, I mean, the tweet that you had up a minute ago, it was also kind of evidence of the way he kind of weaves different kind of unrelated things together and to make this partisan narrative. Because the thing he's talking about there, the water restoration declaration, that didn't really have anything to do with sending water, to urban and suburban Los Angeles. That was a completely different issue about agricultural watering, allowing more water to run down to kind of the breadbasket for California farmers. So, I mean, like, he really is like sort of grabbing any tool to hand, right or wrong, in order to be able to kind of club away at his political opponents. It'll be interesting to see once he takes office. I mean, occasionally during his first term, he and guys like Newsom, as you showed in that clip, would put these kind of fights aside when he was actually the guy in the hot seat, in order to say, okay, we're going to get together for a minute and solve this problem, and then we can go back to me yelling at you later. But at the same time, Trump has been routinely promising, including on the campaign trail just months ago, that unless Newsom gets with the program and does a better job implementing the policies that Trump wants to see him implement in California, that he will not do what Joe Biden is currently doing. He will not allow FEMA money to be spent on fighting things like California wildfires. So it's a totally an open question what that's going to look like in Trump's second term, if God forbid, we see catastrophes like this happening again.
Andrew Egger from the Bulwark. He's the White House correspondent. He's joining us now live on the Don Lemon Show, Lemon Live at 5. Andrew, we're going to table that for a minute, but just say there's about 400,000 customers across California without power. That was early on Wednesday, and that's because of these powerful hurricane force winds that's really giving utility providers a headache out there, and also it is not helpful for people who are living there to get service for their cell phones or to power things up. So it is really a tragedy out there. Now let's get to Andrew, something that you wrote about that was big news all day yesterday, and if not for these fires, I believe would be capturing more of the headlines. And if we can put Andrew's piece up on the screen, Andrew wrote this piece for the Bulwark, and it says, "Take Trump's Greenland obsession seriously." Now, before I start to write about it, why do you say take this seriously? Because people are saying, oh my gosh, we're never going to acquire Greenland. Oh my gosh, we're never going to take back the Panama Canal. Neither are we going to rename the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America. But you said take this Greenland obsession seriously. Why do you say that, Andrew?
Yeah, so this was kind of a common line of, I don't know if you'd call it.
And by the way, Andrew, my subscribers are going to talk to you. They'll thank you. They'll tell you if they like you, hate you, and they'll have questions for you. That's
yeah. Don't put the meanest ones up, please.
Okay, go ahead.
It'll hurt my feelings, but I'll lose my train of thought. It won't be good for anybody. No, I think that during Trump's first term, there was always kind of this open question of the guy is going to say some outrageous kind of cockamamie things that just nobody saw coming, and they're going to draw a lot of eyeballs because as soon as he says, "Oh, we're going to do this," everyone has to be like, "Wait a minute, can he do that? Is this possible?" Like what? Mm-hmm. The media has to run and spend a whole lot of energy essentially just sketching out the contours, feeling out the contours of what that actually means. And back in his first term, buying Greenland was one of those stories. I mean, this was kind of a 3-day story or something like that. I think it was in 2019. I guess I don't remember that off the top of my head, where he got this exact bee in his bonnet, where he said
2019.
Yeah. Where he said, I think we're really going to do it. We're going to try to buy Greenland. And there was a big media frenzy. And then he kind of moved on. And it was like, well, shouldn't we have spent more time paying attention to the actual things he's doing behind the scenes that are actually going to really impact the lives of Americans? And I take that point. I think that the point I was trying to make in this argument or in this piece this morning is that the fact that he is now bringing these back around is a little different this time around. I mean, it's not just been a 1 or 2 day thing. This has been a thing that he has been leaning on for weeks and months. It's in keeping with kind of his central foreign policy impulses, which is that other people have been kind of skating on U.S. largesse. The U.S. doesn't really throw around its weight as much as it should, and we need to get back to kind of aggressively asserting our interests around the world. When he appointed his ambassador to Denmark, which is Greenland is an autonomous territory of the Kingdom of Denmark. When he appointed his ambassador to Denmark last month, President Trump made part of his official announcement of that appointment that essentially that guy's job was going to be negotiating for us to get our hands on Greenland. And I think the thing to realize here is that when he talks about Greenland, when he talks about us taking control again of the Panama Canal, it's not a foreign policy impulse first and foremost. I think that this goes to the same sort of impulse as Trump's kind of holding court while tech billionaires kind of come to him and utter his praises and change their policies to kind of appease him and things like that. We've been seeing a lot of that in recent days too. He's kind of doing the same thing on kind of a world tour, right? Where he's going to all of our allies and essentially saying, well, look, isn't it kind of funny how I, the new president of the United States of America, could in theory reach out my hand and just snap up this large island of yours? And then, the prime minister of Denmark has to get on the TV and talk about how much she values her partnership with the U.S. and talk about how, well, what's really important is that Greenland's sort of ultimate government be established by the people of Greenland. And he is really just kind of a bull in a china shop and showing kind of by a display of raw force how much he can get away with because of how much other NATO countries rely on the United States and things like that. And it really is just kind of like an exercise for him as he prepares to take power for a second time. And I wonder like how kind of intensely I can throw open the doors of what's possible in terms of what I'm speculating about before anybody really tells me, well, sir, you can't really do that. You kind of have to stop doing that. And the whole Republican Party has been following him on this too. Yeah. I mean, I think that's important to say, especially in the House of Representatives. You've had a lot of endorsements of these plans.
Well, they can't help themselves.
Sorry, I'll throw it back to you.
No, that's okay. They can't help themselves because everything he says, they have to go along with it, whether it makes sense or not. Now, he's not the only one to have proposed this, the only president. Folks have been trying to do this for quite some time or something similar. And as you said, he proposed this back in 2019. By the way, Andrew, you're very lucky. The audience likes you a lot. And so we're getting lots of tweets about the Bulwark and about bring Andrew back. We like him. He keeps it real. So you're lucky. Sometimes they are not so happy with some of the folks that I have on, especially those who are very critical of the current administration. I'm just saying. So
I can do some of that too if you wanted. I mean, let's hang out.
All right, so listen, let's go through this because I think you make some very good points. And I'll just start to say, you said, if it wasn't clear before his latest freewheeling press conference yesterday, it sure is now. Donald Trump has territorial acquisition on the brain, you say. He wants to go get Greenland, which he says the U.S. needs for national security reasons, and it's prepared to tariff Denmark at a very high level, as you quote him there, until they consent to fork it over. A delegation of MAGA meatheads led by Donald Trump Jr., jetted off to Greenland this week to inspect the merchandise, complete with, I always forget his name, the guy that he went that was cosplaying with the jacket on. What's his name? Charlie Kirk. What the hell was that all about? Why does Don Jr. and Charlie Kirk need to go and lead some sort of, I don't know if you would call it a straw man or a cosplay, a delegation to Greenland? What's that all about?
Yeah, I mean, you could look at it a few different ways, right? I mean, you could look at it as sort of pure. I mean, I do think there is a sense in which it's dangling a shiny object in front of all of us to kind of get us to freak out a little bit. I don't want to completely discount that theory by any means, because I think there is some of that. There is some tweaking of kind of like the norms. There's some tweaking of our allies of saying, well, man, this country sure is cool. I think we'll buy it from you, that kind of thing. On kind of like the weirdly like chipper and optimistic and sort of faux cheery side of things, it's something for sort of his base to get kind of cheered up about. Like America the Alpha is out there sort of asserting itself on the world stage in this very odd way. But at the same time, I'm trying to strike a balance here, because on the one hand, yes, it's sort of silly. It's
Andrew, hold on, let me say something. You can strike a balance, but don't give us false equivalency on this program. Some things are objectively bad and some things are objectively good. Maybe Donald Trump has something right. And if you believe that, say it, but you don't have to. I'm not saying that you're doing that, but you don't have to do the false equivalency. If you love it, tell us. If you don't, go for it. I thought that's what you did in your article, and I like the way you did it. So I'm just saying.
I'm trying to work through it, honestly. I mean, like I Semaphore's Dave Weigel, sorry, he had a tweet that I thought was kind of interesting this morning. It was like a thought experiment. He was like, fast forward to 2028, like say through some weird circumstance we get Greenland, right? And then a Democrat's elected president in 2028. Like, are we trying to give it back to Denmark? Like you can envision a situation where somehow we do strike some kind of deal for Greenland, and it is a good thing. Like it's a strategically important island, like I don't want to discount that. I don't want to say it's impossible, but by the same token, I mean, the way in which he's going about this is truly insane. I mean, like it's the fact that he explicitly refused to rule out a possible military conquest of this island, which is owned by one of our NATO allies. I mean, just dwell on that for a second, right? I mean, like he if we were to try to take Greenland by military force, which first of all, not really clear what that would look like. It's a very sparsely populated island. I think we're the only military there, really. But like, say this is ours now. We've taken this by conquest. We would trigger the rest of our NATO allies to go to war with us. I mean, like, it's just a bizarre thing.
What is it? Article 9 or something that of the NATO agreement, that attack on one is attack on all, or something like that, right?
Yeah, and again, I'm not saying that's likely or even a thing that he's truly considering. It's just it's insane enough that he's leaving that door open. I think if he were to pursue this, by far the more possible and likely thing would be trying to apply, essentially trade pressure, because he views tariffs, that slapping tariffs on other countries is kind of a magic bullet that's kind of win-win for the United States of America, because we can pressure other countries to do the things that we want them to do, and we can make more money for our treasury, because he doesn't believe that U.S. consumers pay the costs of tariffs that we impose.
So you see, Kevin in the comments there said it's Article 5. See, they correct me on this program. I love the interaction that we have. This is what I want to know. Let's play. This is Don Jr. and what did I say his name was again?
Charlie Kirk.
Charlie Kirk.
Turning Point USA.
Why this? Here it is.
Greenland with Don Jr.
Everyone wants to be on TikTok.
What do you guys think of America?
Great.
Love America, and you love Trump?
Yes, of course.
The youth of Greenland, Don.
We're hearing a lot of it, guys. We're hearing a lot of it.
You guys all love TikTok, right?
Of course. I'll follow you.
Oh, thank you. Live from Greenland.
Why, Andrew? Come on.
Can I just say, I mean,
yeah, go for it.
It is so, I'm not even sure people realize nobody lives in Greenland. Like it is a giant piece of ice, right? Like right now, and look, like we were talking about earlier, climate change is on the move. The real estate values in Greenland could appreciate over time, but for like it is kind of funny to see like Charlie Kirk and Don Jr. go there and try to find people to put on their camera, and they found like 5 guys, and that's presumably in a population center. Yeah, I could not tell you the actual.
Do you think we'd be doing this if it wasn't? If it was maybe Russia or someone else had control of Greenland and we weren't the only ones there, and it wasn't Denmark who was our ally? What if it was someone else? Do you think Donald Trump would be, giving this? Would he be even doing this before he even takes office, or is this just to steal the headlines and to give Americans something to talk about before he gets into office?
Well, I mean that has always been
a distraction.
That has always been kind of a weird thing about Trump. The way Trump approaches the world is he's always like more interested in sort of policing his status as the top dog among his circle of associates and friends, more so than he is interested in extracting, wins from our actual enemies, from geopolitical adversaries like Russia and China. And I think this is in keeping with that, essentially bullying Denmark about Greenland. But I mean, since you mentioned Russia, let me just say this real quick as well. Not a lot of people live in Greenland, but it's not as though Greenland is not important, right? I mean, Greenland is actually geopolitically strategically very important. I mean, it's a large mass that's very far north, and we use it as a staging area. It's an important staging area for NATO in general, because the Arctic is important. The Arctic is important for shipping, international shipping, for the possibility of geopolitical conflict later. I mean, Russia's a lot closer to us over the top than around the side, that sort of thing. And the prime minister of Denmark made this point explicitly the other day. I mean, she essentially said, I'm actually happy that the U.S. in a certain sense, I'm happy that the U.S. is showing such a renewed interest in Greenland. I want them to remain committed to our having a presence there. I'd sure rather have us have it than Russia have it. And I think like that's kind of in the background of all this too, because you're in this asymmetrical environment where all of our NATO partners, their top priority is continuing to contain China and Russia. But then you have Donald Trump, who, while he is sort of ostensibly committed to those aims as well, is much more focused at any given moment on making sure, our NATO partners aren't taking advantage of us in small ways, economically, or reasserting our status as the alpha dog in that partnership.
Yeah. Quite 622 says, y'all giving Trump too much credit. He ain't that smart. So it's not perfect English, but it's I believe that Quite has a point there, but he is smart.
He has an animal instinct for dominating people, right? Can't we say that?
Yeah, he does. For dominating people and for shaping the conversation. Look, guess who we're not talking about when we're talking about him? We're not talking about Elon Musk. We're not talking about Vivek Ramaswamy. We're not talking about J.D. Vance, which we don't really talk about anyways. We're not talking about Joe Biden or Kamala Harris or anybody else. We're talking about who? Donald Trump. He is going to, everyone has been wondering, well, when is the fallout going to happen between Donald Trump and who folks were saying was the president was Elon Musk, which he's not, but he's getting all the attention. Donald Trump is going to have the bully pulpit. And the way that he's going to correct that is he's going to make sure that he shapes the conversation every single day so that everyone is talking about him. This is what you say. The important thing to understand is that Trump's interest is aggressive national expansion into some odd and inexplicable sideshow to his politics. It is his politics. It's the blossoming of the same deep central impulse that's driven him throughout his first election and his return to the presidency. Whom can I dominate and who is going to stop me? Which is just what you said, that he has this ability to dominate the conversation or to try to dominate even our allies.
Yeah, and I mean it's a striking thing. I mean he has this personal ability, right, that we've talked about, and he has now been given access to an enormous amount of political and military and economic power, where even beyond the people who are kind of in his personal sphere of influence, everybody, has to pay attention to what the United States is doing with him at the helm. So I think what we are seeing really more than anything else right now is just how much he is sort of luxuriating in having his hands back on his weapons in that way, where his megaphone is greatly enhanced by being the president-elect of the United States.
Okay, well, I love the article on the Bulwark from Andrew Egger. So, Andrew, thank you for that. Enough of the Greenland stuff. The Panama Canal? Like, really? Is this all? I want to move on to something else, but this is all bullshit? I mean, he might try to do it. Who knows? But what is he going to do with the Panama Canal? And how the hell is he going to name the Gulf of Mexico, the Gulf of America? Doesn't he remember Mexico was here first?
So let's do the last one first, because that is the cotton candiest of all of them. I mean, I guess in some way, essentially what you would be able to do is you would be able to potentially get the United States to start referring to the Gulf as the Gulf of America in official government documents. And you could turn it into kind of a MAGA cultural signaling thing where they, it's like wearing the hat or something like that we call it the Gulf of America. I mean, it's not like you can compel the map companies to change it by force or anything like that. That's not how these things work. Although all the tech billionaires, I guess you could see Google change it as a sort of a sop to him. Who knows? But so that's sort of the silly one. The Panama Canal is less silly because it is more fraught, right? I mean, the geopolitics there are actually potentially alarming. The thing that Trump is, again, I talked about this a little bit before, just the way that he kind of will glance off of a real issue in kind of like a weird idiosyncratic way. The thing that a lot of his advisors are worried about, and the reason he's talking about it, other than the reasons we've already talked about, is because of China's growing influence in operating a number of the kind of ports that make up the Panama Canal. The U.S. used to own that canal, gifted it back to Panama to administer during the Jimmy Carter administration, and Panama has gradually given a little bit more control of that to China. So that's what Trump is bouncing off of. But the potential here for actual conflict is much larger than over Greenland, because obviously China is a real foe and they have deep interest. I mean, they have worked hard to integrate themselves as much as they have into that, as they have so many other things. So I mean, you really do not necessarily want to see a situation where the United States and China are both digging in their heels over a real squabble over the Panama Canal, which could have all kinds of economic impacts, to say nothing of the remote, but I guess plausible possibility, because again, Trump is not ruling this out, of actual war over who is going to control the Panama Canal. So that one, I mean, it is an unbelievably, people know this, right? I mean, it's a crucial shipping lane. Remember when that one boat got stuck in the Suez Canal in Egypt a couple of years ago? You don't really appreciate how important these things are until suddenly they're not working quite right? Snarled shipping lanes all over the place. Panama Canal, more important than the Suez Canal. So I think that is another potentially actually alarming thing. We will see where that one goes.
Yeah, Panama Canal. Does Trump have a hotel in Panama? Says Beth Collier. She knows that the transactional nature of the former and president-elect. So Donald Trump's team was fed questions prior to Fox News' town hall in 2024. That is according to a new book. This headline popped up this morning from the writer. A mole within Fox sent the Trump camp all the questions that he would be getting at a Bret Baier and Martha MacCallum town hall in January of 2024, allowing him to workshop his answers ahead of time, including his "I'm not going to have time for retribution" line. So this is a book that is coming out. The Trump campaign team was handed these questions in advance at Fox News town hall in Iowa in January of last year. That's according to a new book. Politico's Alex Eisenstadt writes in Revenge, the inside story of Trump's return to power, that many of the president-elect's advisors did not want him to show up at the event moderated by Bret Baier and Martha MacCallum, because they said these were the two toughest questioners on that platform, and they would ask him about things that he may not have wanted to answer, including criminal charges against him, election interference, allegations of abuse and assault, so on and so forth. Apparently got the questions beforehand and was able to workshop it. Now, Fox has responded saying that the writer and reporter has refused to show any evidence, so they really can't respond to it, but to say that they don't believe that this story is true. or at least all of this story is true. What do you think about that? I smell another Trump lawsuit coming, says Sherry.
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty good bet, Sherry. I mean, it's interesting. I actually did not realize until just this minute, as you were talking about it, that I was at that Des Moines town hall back in January covering the caucuses. At the moment, at that time, it was a striking answer to me that he said that I'm not going to have time for retribution thing. He essentially was asked about, you know, his past statements where he was explicitly embracing the notion that a reelected Trump would be a force of retribution against his enemies and MAGA's enemies. And he kind of diffused it and defanged it and turned that question aside in kind of a clever way. And I think in a way that a lot of his sort of more normie Republican backers breathed a sigh of relief about, because they were kind of all like, please, will you stop talking about that stuff? People don't like to hear about the retribution and all that kind of stuff. So
do you remember, Andrew, what you were doing about 30 minutes before the town hall was due to start?
I'm sorry?
Do you remember what you were doing about 30 minutes before the town hall was due to start?
Me personally, I'm sure I was driving with gripping the steering wheel like crazy because the weather was horrible. I don't even remember this at all. There was like a total cold snap right before the caucuses in Des Moines last year. It was hard to get around the state.
Well, the reason I asked that is because 30 minutes before the town hall, this is what it's written here, was due to start. A senior aide started getting text messages from a person on the inside at Fox. Holy shit, the teen thought. Eisenstadt wrote, they were images of all the questions Trump would be asked and the planned follow-ups down to the exact wording. Jackpot. This was like a student getting a peek at the test before the exam started.
Yeah, I mean, it's a story based on anonymous sources. It could be exactly as it's reported. It could be tweaked in this or that way. It could be off base. But the thing that just struck me again, as I was narrating, like my own response to that answer, it did seem out of keeping with the way he had responded to those questions in the past. A lot of times when Trump is on the fly, it kind of doesn't really matter how well he's been drilled. He will get pulled into kind of these, I don't know exactly how you'd put it. It's like what you saw during the debate with Kamala Harris, where she would bait him, right? She would get him to aggressively defend territory because he doesn't like to pivot. He doesn't like to cede ground to people. He likes to hold his ground and dominate and fight. And so I thought that was kind of an elegant pivot when he did it that way. And so it was kind of interesting to read today. Oh, I guess he got a little bit of potentially got a little bit of bonus prep time to prepare that pivot.
Yeah, and be careful. I mean, Donald Trump's litigious. You have to say alleged, reportedly, apparently.
Well, and not just for litigation reasons, right? I mean, it's true. It's true. It has been alleged. Like nobody's putting their name to this, and it could be off base. So it's not just a CYA sort of situation. I think it's fair to say that.
Well, we started this program talking about the wildfires in California, which is the most destructive in the Golden State's history. The costliest and most destructive in the Golden State history. And people are also using these fires for political reasons. Let's put up this. This is an original tweet from Wasserman. I want to put it up in because I know that you have been tweeting about this as well, and I want to get your response. So this guy says, he tweets, he says, does anyone have access to private firefighters to protect our home in Pacific Palisades? Need to act fast. All neighbors' houses burning. We'll pay any amount. Thank you. And then, so someone put that up, and then he said, and then someone put the comparison of what he wrote back in earlier this year, where he said, your automobile insurance is up 73%. That's Donald Trump. Vote for Trump. I'll cut that number in half. And then Wasserman, the person who was asking for these private firefighters, replied to a Donald Trump tweet by saying, property taxes too, please. Okay, you should know that property taxes help to pay for firefighters, fire prevention, and other things that happen in the community. And so if you are reducing property taxes, then you are probably most likely reducing the amount of money that will go to the people who fight these fires and who prevent such things from happening. And then James Line of Kamala HQ, he wrote this. He said, does anyone responding to this? He said, will the lifeboats be seated according to class, responding to Keith Wasserman? Now, look, it may be true about, them reducing, by reducing the amount of money that you pay in taxes, that you may be reducing the amount of services you get. But is it a time when someone is stressed out and they are concerned about losing their homes and possibly their own lives? And then Mr. Eggers responded by saying this. Also, FFS, you know what that means. We can say it here for fuck's sake. How internet poisoned do you have to be to see posts from a guy whose house is burning down and be like, aha, time to do my little dunks? Now, I read this morning, Andrew Egger. I read this morning, not even knowing that you would be on this program. And so you saw the political nature and of what is happening here, how people tend to turn everything into an us versus them sort of political attack. And you thought a lot of it.
Yeah. So look, I'm totally aware this is not a guy who is like a super sympathetic character, right? I mean, he's a multimillionaire CEO of a California real estate development company. Although they need to build a lot more housing in California to solve the housing crisis out there. So maybe in that sense, he should be a sympathetic character. But I get it. Like, I get that this is a guy who's wealthy and you know, the idea of trying to solicit, you know, private firefighters while obviously everyone's out there fighting fires. I get why the impulse was to say, here's a guy who's trying to get like preferential treatment because he's rich and he thinks he's entitled to that or whatever. I get that. At the same time, I think a few things. One, just in general, we have this horrible social media impulse, and we all have it. Like, I have it, where we start to see other people as content, right? Essentially, more than anything else. Like the people who we bounce off of on social media are not like other actual human beings with actual lives who we could put ourselves in their shoes. They are just like stuff that exists so I can like post about it and so other people can post about it. You know, Twitter has a main character of the day. There's a famous tweet: every day Twitter has a main character and the goal is never to be it, because somebody gets put in this position and they essentially exist as an object for everybody to be angry at or angry about or have takes on and things like this. The thing is, I mean, what you have here is a person whose house may have burned down, right? I mean, he is in a position of solidarity with a lot of other people in that area right now, in that sense, right? His home is under threat. He is evacuated. His life is totally screwed up. I mean, I saw people posting about how how his home is probably insured, and so he shouldn't be mad that it burned down. Oh, cool. Like, I'm sure that's really reassuring. I mean, I'm sure it is reassuring. You want insurance in that situation, but he's still allowed to hope it didn't burn down, right? He's still allowed to do what anybody would do if they were in that situation and use what resources they had to try to prevent the destruction of their home and all their belongings. So I don't know. I tossed off those tweets a little bit, just kind of like out of pique over seeing that stuff. But I really do think that we should all pretty log off. We should all log off. We should all touch grass. We should all resist the urge to turn other people into social media content to fill our lives. And we should just watch our little shows instead.
Apparently, I was not aware of just how feisty and fiery Andrew Egger could be. And so the folks in the chat are letting me know, because they kind of like you, and I don't know what's up with that. But look, you bring up a very good point, is that when you said we sometimes, because of, I call it internet brain, you can call it social media brain, whatever you want to call it, you start to see people, and I didn't think of this, as content and not necessarily as human beings. And so someone saw that and said, oh, I can dunk on that. And I can dunk on that person, and that person can become content, and I'll get more clicks.
Yeah,
that's bad. That's not good.
And just to say one other thing on it too, I think there's another impulse, especially for those of us who are in politics, where there's almost this weird vein that you're doing something noble by doing that. You're posting for progress or something like that by I don't know. You're heightening the contradictions of our class system or whatever, right? But there is this sense that like just by doing sort of politically charged posting, that is tantamount to sort of political action and political organizing and things like that. And I think that also plays in here in kind of uncomfortable ways. But we're way off of what I'm actually comfortable talking about in terms of my area of expertise. So I'm just kind of speaking at this point.
Well, by the way, Andrew Egger says he was not prepared to do television, which he's not. I mean, we're streaming. I mean, it is television. It's just a different mechanism. So he said he's not wearing his suit or whatever he would be wearing in the White House. I'm sure he's going to dress up in the White House, especially in the briefing room. What do you think, Andrew? of the administration and the incoming communications director. I forget what her name is. She's saying that
Carolyn Levitt.
yes, saying that they're gonna change things up a bit. I personally think that they're going to not really deplatform, but try to traditional legacy media to the best of their ability, and they're going to amplify folks like you who do digital, who are podcasters, who have streaming programs, alternative media. I think will be platformed, especially considering how crucial they were, and even we, because I consider myself to be in this business now, were to the win of Donald Trump.
Yeah, I think they're really eager to spend a lot of time talking to the Bulwark specifically. No, it's interesting.
And Pod Save America, and
yeah. Exactly. So a couple things about this. One, this was going to be the case either way, right? I mean, like this is just it's less a Trump phenomenon, although it is a Trump phenomenon, than it is just kind of a political phenomenon right now. Democrats and Republicans are both recognizing how weirdly little reach the kind of old tentpole organizations have relative to what they had before. And you saw this from Trump and Kamala Harris on the campaign trail, going to a whole constellation of smaller programs that, no individual one had the reach of, going on Meet the Press or something like that, but which when you add them all together, they're all reaching totally different individual audiences who aren't watching Meet the Press. And so the cumulative effect of hitting a bunch of different little shows and things like that ends up being bigger than if you just, blanket the quote unquote legacy media with coverage. That said, there is one interesting quirk of Trump himself that I will be interested to see how it shakes out with all of this, which is that he himself is a big consumer of the legacy media. I mean, like his longtime guys like McKay Coppins of The Atlantic have written about this a lot, where it is sort of core to Trump's identity, dating back all through his real estate career, that he never really feels like he got the respect he deserved from kind of official New York, from official media, from the New York Times, from the glitterati of New York polite society and things like that, which is why he has always had a real love-hate relationship with places like the New York Times and the networks and things like that. So I would have actually a hard time imagining him cutting them out completely. I don't think Donald Trump wants to be talking to Real American News as much as he wants to be talking to NBC or ABC or
CNN or
CNN. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think he is a go big TV guy. I mean, like he is more a creature of TV than he is a creature of the internet.
Well, look at that's that generation. I mean, if you look at the average age of someone who watches streaming or a podcast listener, which gets millions and millions and millions and millions of ears and eyes, 34 years old, right? Rather than the cable. I think the average age of my audience when I worked in cable was like, there's nothing wrong with that, like in their 60s and 70-year-old people.
Yeah. And so, just to bring it all the way back around, I'm not at all surprised that they are pursuing a strategy. I mean, it's totally simpatico with the political project too, of, sort of being anti-elite in presentation and populist and all those sorts of things. So setting aside Trump's own secret desire to be loved and appreciated by the New York Times and CNN, I'm not surprised at all to see them moving in this direction.
Well, guys, let me know. Put up a poll. Would you like to see Andrew on this show a lot more? Andrew, I mean, maybe there's something. You got the Bulwark podcast over there, but, there is the Don Lemon, the Lemon Media Network, and you can come on and maybe we can do a collab. And we can have Andrew Wednesdays or Andrew Thursdays or something like that.
Yeah, this is fun. Thank you for having me on.
Hey, so thank you. Look, good luck in the next 4 years. Get your rest now, buddy, and get your eyes ready to for a lot of tweets and a lot of, Truth Social posts that you're going to have to be dealing with.
My wife is 39 and a half weeks pregnant. So
no.
Yes. Gearing up for a lot of really restful nights and things. Is
this your first?
Third.
Are you kidding me?
You
look like you're 17 years old.
Yeah, just turned 30. We got busy quick.
What are you writing about next? Do you know?
Tomorrow is this bill. I don't know if you followed it at all. It just passed the House, the Laken-Riley Act. It's an immigration bill. Senate Democrats are they're not sure which way they're going to go on it. It may pass. It may get
explain what happened to Laken-Riley, right? It's a name. Can you explain what happened to Laken-Riley? I believe was killed by an illegal, and so now they want the Lake and Riley Act, correct?
Yes. So yeah, and I look, it's been a little while. I don't have every detail exactly to hand, but the nexus to the bill is that he had previously been charged with a crime, and so the kind of extra level of kind of moral indignation about the crime was, well, here is an illegal immigrant who has had run-ins with the Justice Department before, so why was he around in order to be able to kill this woman? And so that's essentially the first. We don't need to go into the whole thing, but that's the kind of top line of the bill is that if someone who is in the country illegally is accused of, arrested for, charged with a crime, they'll be detained by the Department of Homeland Security, kind of by default. And there's a lot more to it than that. That's giving some Democrats pause, even though a lot of Democrats are trying to find ways to move toward the center on immigration. And you would think maybe that would kind of be low-hanging fruit. But there's some other provisions in the bill that they're a little squirrelier about. So that's what tomorrow's newsletter is about.
You can read about it on the Bulwark. You can see it on the podcast, and also we'll have Andrew come on to discuss it and other things. Andrew, thank you. I appreciate it. Great job. Say hello to everybody over at the Bulwark.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. It was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Thanks so much. Okay, so that was Andrew Egger. I thought that was a great conversation about news of the day and what he's been writing about Greenland and other issues. And so let's get to some of your things, because I want to tell you guys just how excited and happy I am. And while we were in this show, now, do you remember, it wasn't even a month ago, I think it was 3 weeks ago maybe, that I was telling you guys about, hey, we've reached 300,000 subscribers. In 3 weeks, 325,000. We've gotten 25,000 subscribers, 25,000 people to sign up for our content and subscribe in the last 3 weeks. That's something that we should be celebrating. We celebrated when we got 300,000. Remember, Tim and I were in the kitchen. It was, I think it was on my private stream that we did the night that I cooked holiday dinner for you guys who are in part of our members. We were celebrating 300,000, 325,000, and we hit that mark on the show today. So no, Bridget says, you go Don. No, not you go Don. You go Lemonheads. You go Lemonation. We get a lot of criticism from the haters and from the MAGA folks, the MAGA brain cult folks, and they talk about us. We've been doing this less than a year, and to have the amount of subscribers and members and followers that we have is just unbelievable. Our YouTube channel and our social media gets millions and millions and millions of hits. Today I was in the hotel, and one of the hotel staff members came up and said, "Hey, are you going to do your live today from your room?" And I said, "You know about that?" She says, "Yeah, I watch you every day." So amazing. I said, "How do you watch?" She goes, "Sometimes I watch on TikTok. Sometimes I watch on YouTube. It depends. But I love when you're on the TikTok and you show the ceiling, because I feel like you're just kind of hanging out with me." And so it's just amazing to have that sort of feedback. So go Lemonheads. Thank you very much, Angie Spencer Smith. And remember, if you become a member, and we'll tell you how to if you can put it in the top, someone put it how to become a member, the moderators on TikTok, how to become a member, if you can put it, one of the producers in the top of our comments. So Angie Spencer Smith says, proud to be a part of the Lemonheads. I agree. Thank you. Let's see. Onward to 400K, says Jackie Blue. Jackie, why aren't you a member? You said onward to 400K. So people are thirsty for the truth and independent media, says Culture. I agree, 100%. Thank you. So James Jaramillo gifted a membership by Jason Carney. So thank you. So who's gifting memberships up in here? That's what I would like to know. Let's see who's gifting memberships up in, and who should I thank? Oh, wait a minute. Kimberly Page. Kimberly, thank you. Gifted 10 memberships to the Don Lemon Show. I appreciate that. So 10 folks got to become members. Nappy Chow also gifted 10 memberships for the Don Lemon Show. Now, remember, you have to renew those, right? When you gift it, they are only available for a limited amount of time. So you have to renew those after a while. Jason Carney also gifted 5 memberships. Because of your generosity, guys, we had 25 people, at least from this, who will be able to become members of the Don Lemon Show. You'll be a part of our private stream, a part of our personal programming that we do for the folks there. And so it's in the top of our comment section. Jason Carney, thank you for doing that. It's the top of our comment section on how you can become a member. Now, if you're on an iPhone, it's a little bit tough. You can't do it. You got to go out of the app, and then you have to go into the actual youtube.com in order to be able to do it. And so, but we'll put the link up. If you are on any other operating system, on any other system, it's easy. You just hit the membership button. Remember, to subscribe, it's free. It's free to subscribe. To become a member, it's a different story. But I think it's very reasonable and manageable. Sonia Neba says, congratulations. Thank you. Thank you so much, says Lips Galore. Thanks for the gifted membership, says Chucklehead Charlene. So welcome to the Don Lemon program. Welcome to the Lemon Nation. Amanda Belcher says, hit the button, y'all. Make sure you hit the like. We have thousands of people watching this and not enough people hitting the thumbs up like button. Awesome sauce. I love that. Remember we had our corny sayings? And remember we did those things that we said that we had the guy on that was saying, white people, come up with the stuff, the funny stuff, like awesome sauce. And there were a couple of other things that this guy was joking about. Says, I love it when you guys came up with that. Awesome sauce was one of my very favorite things. Thank you for the gift, says Me After Summer. Awesome sauce. I love being a lemon. I love that, Estella. I love that saying. So, Lemonheads making juice out here, says it's Stacy. You're right about that. What do you guys what are you interested in knowing? So I was going to do this for a private stream, but since we're all here and we're profiling our members, I was going to show you a picture of my sister. I'm not going to show you because she's in a hotel room and she's got all kinds of things hooked up to her. But so an update on my sister. I became a member last week, says Vicky Sanders. Vicky, congratulations. Thank you. Let me tell you, May Money's in the building says, I want to join the Lemon Legends show sometime. You need some more millennial energy. I do. So get your butt in there. Become. Ursula, which says, welcome to the Lemonation. Well, thank you very much. And welcome to the Lemonation, Ursula. So now is able to become a member. So let me update you on my sister and on Gus Gus. All right. And you guys, I mean, it's like a family. It's so funny that we know about it. This is so odd, but not really, that we're able to have this sort of personal relationship. It's so different than what I did when I was on in legacy media. This is so different. So here's the deal. First, I will tell you about Gus Gus, okay? So I spoke with Tim, and I talked to you about Gus Gus. Now, this is a weird thing because he was on so much medication. I mean, he's a senior dog. He's 14 or going on 15. We're not exactly sure, maybe 15 going on 16, depending on, because we're not sure that there's one thing that the vet says and there's another thing that the shelter says, okay? Slapdash, thank you for your support. Slapdash of independent media. So he was on so much medication, we thought he was going to die. We did not know what was going on with him. And then finally we took him to a specialist who diagnosed him with pneumonia and a collapsed trachea and some other. He had bruising around his ribs because of all the coughing that he was doing. And they said it wasn't unusual. And it was weird because he's like kind of not using his back legs. Well, this is going to sound odd. So he got better. We had to put him like a steam shower. Like we took a shower and went to the bathroom, took a shower. We put him in there so that he could get the steam and get all that stuff out. Okay. So he started to get better after pumping all these medications. He was not going to the bathroom, barely urinating, and then not being regular. And so Tim called me today and said, oh my gosh, Gus hasn't had medication in a couple of days. He had been coughing. He's getting better. It's barely a cough, still a little bit. And he said he has never gone to the bathroom so much, if you know what I mean. And he's able to walk because he was backed up. We were like, why, is something wrong with his back legs? He's not, whatever. I think the poor thing was just so backed up from all the medication. And then now he's almost like it's a new dog. Not quite the same energy that he had, because he's an older dog, so maybe he'll improve. But anyways, we're being cautious, and it's just funny that so we know that that's a good thing, right? When you go to the bathroom, finally, especially if you haven't gone for a couple weeks, this has been happening. He hasn't really gone to the bathroom in a substantial kind of way. Okay. I know you think that's probably weird. SFL says poop, poop, poop. That's what I'm trying to say without saying poop. Tim was like, Don, it was ridiculous, but it's a good thing. He pooped, like, and a good poop. And you guys, if you have animals, you know, tell me the truth. You know when it's a good poop, and then you know when it's a bad poop. You know when your animal is sick or something is going on when it's different. And that is every animal owner or pet owner knows, like, dog's in good shape, had a good poop. I never thought I'd be talking about that with dogs. And people do the same thing with their kids. And they laugh when their kids have a good, you know what. Okay, so on to my sister. I know it's funny, right? On to my sister who was in bad shape. So honestly, the reason that I rushed down on Sunday was that the doctor said that she was in such bad shape that they thought, like, you better come see her because you never know. Because there are a number of different issues going on. I'm not going to tell you what was going on. But anyway, she had some issues going on. That's her personal business. And they had to really work to get her to a better place. And so she was in intensive care. She was not, she could barely, I should say, breathe on her own. And so they finally hooked her up to a ventilator. And when I heard that ventilator, I was like, oh no. And so I hopped on an airplane because we all remember during COVID and the people who were put on ventilators and what happened. Their breathing, it made them weaker in some instances. And so I didn't want her to go on a ventilator. And I finally got down to meet her doctor. And I said, I wanted her to come off that ventilator as soon as possible. And so they, all that in the CPAP machine, or whatever that PAP machine is that helps them breathe, but it's not quite a ventilator. So anyways, they got her off finally. And today, I was going to go home today, but then they called and said they're taking her out of intensive care. And they're going to try to put her into another place. So I want to make sure that she's comfortable there before I come home. So, I'm just sharing with you because this is a community. It's not, this is not traditional media. And you guys have been asking. So there you go. That's what's going on. So I am, for all of those, thank you, Dan Sabo. That's her name, Ema. Do you guys know where that came from? Do you know anyone knows what Ema, YMA? Does anyone know what that is? Anyone? Ema, says Lisa G. I see I'm looking at your sending prayers, Don. Thank you very much. Anybody have any idea? Let's see who in the chat has heard of that. Who my sister was named after. Anyone? Bueller? Okay, so I'll tell you. She was named after the opera singer Ema Sumac. Does anyone know Ema Sumac? That's who my sister was named after. And Ema Sumac. And one of her, what she did, she recorded an opera called Tosca. Tosca. That's my sister's middle name. Ema Tosca. And so that's who she was named after. Anybody hear of Ema Sumac? If you have not heard of Ema Sumac, go listen to her music. Incredible. One of my all-time favorite singers who could do opera and a million other things. Okay? So, there you go. Now you know. And she's in the right direction, but not out of the woods yet. And so for people who say, where are you? Why aren't you in your studio? Why aren't you at home? Why are you doing your show from a hotel room? A lot of streamers do their shows from hotel rooms. It doesn't really matter. What matters is the information and the family that we are creating, the community. So there you go. Now I'm going to go see her now. And then I'll see you again in the morning. But make sure you hit the subscribe button. Make sure you like. Make sure you follow our content. Make sure you continue to make this little community that we have. It's powerful now. 325,000 subscribers. And our memberships are going up. I appreciate you joining us. So go hug a family member, a loved one, and play with your dogs or cats or pets or whatever it is. And don't worry about knucklehead, you know who. And send some prayers up for the folks in California. And have a great evening. Thanks everyone for watching. Your support means the world to us. So make sure you hit the like button and you subscribe to our channel to make sure that you never ever miss a video. We're live every day, 10 a.m. Eastern time. We drop even more content at 2 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Eastern. And if you want more Don Lemon Show content, we'd love for you to become a member of the Lemon community, where you will receive access to special community posts. You'll get exclusive content and members-only live shows. So head over to our channel page or click the join button on this video. Again, thank you for watching. We appreciate your love and your